Uh, we were we were established as an interest group in mid 2021 and chartered as an official chapter of the Rocks Incorporated on 30 January 2023. Our goal is to provide mentorship, professional development, and professional networking opportunities for Army officers, warrant officers, civilians, and cadets, with a particular focus on a variety of topics that includes military intelligence, cyber, the Army of 2030, multi-domain operations, and other interest areas based on our members' inputs at the home of military intelligence. Although this is the home of intelligence, we, Team Huachuca, make a specific point to ensure eligible and interested personnel, regardless of branch, understand that they are welcome to become members of Huachuca Rocks. We emphasize inclusion and we work hard to incorporate fellow officers, warrant officers, civilians, and cadets who are collectively focused on the challenging but rewarding work of investing in people. Before starting this discussion, I would like to set a few guidelines for our session. First, if you have a question for our guest, we will set aside time after his comments to pose your questions to him. So please enter them in the chat room and include your rank if you are military as well as your name. We'll do our very best to answer as many questions as possible within the allotted time. Second, please ensure that you are muted during our session. For today's session, I would like to introduce Major General Christopher L. Eubanks, a native of Roanoke, Virginia. General Eubanks' career started in 1991, and he started out as a armed officer before branch detailing over to the Signal Corps in 1993. Throughout his intensive service, he has held various roles, including brigade signal officer, battalion commander, and director of the J6 for the United States Army. United States Africa Command, accumulating in 8 deployments supporting Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. In his recent assignments until September of 2021, he served as the CG for the 7th Signal Command and Deputy CG at Fort Eisenhower, Georgia. General Eubanks currently serves as the NETCOM Commander. And, sir, we thank you for joining us today, and we'll turn it over to you.
All right, Fred, thanks for that great introduction. And thank you for not going through my entire bio. That might have taken up a lot of time. But hey, so I'm absolutely, and I noticed my camera's all blurry, so I apologize for that. But I absolutely appreciate the invite to talk to you guys today about intel as it pertains to kind of my day job. So cyber, signal, the network. And so again, appreciate the invite. So I'm gonna start with because know your audience, right? And so I'm gonna start with, hey, this is Netcom. And then I'll focus on the intel piece and then take questions from there. But so what is Netcom? So I like to tell people Netcom is a 2-star operational command with global responsibility that is in crisis, competition, and conflict 24/7. Right. And so we are responsible for delivering the Army's portion of the Department of Defense Information Network, or DoDIN, every day. What does that mean? It depends on who you ask. Third largest network in the world, about 1.4 million endpoints, roughly 950,000 users any given day. And the command is global, so 15,000 people across the globe. In garden spots like Kuwait, Europe, Korea, Hawaii, and then CONUS, and then we have about 1,300 or so individuals in harm's way every day, supporting, things overseas. So that is NETCOM. What are our focuses? Our focus, people, readiness. Readiness is really about operating and maintaining the network every day and securing it. And then what we call continuous improvement, where we have about 28 tasks right now, uh, given to us both by our cyber and the G60 Army, all about improving the network and setting the Army unified network based on zero trust principles. And so that's kind of us day to day. And I'll talk about any of those projects you want to talk about, initiatives or things we're doing, if you guys want to talk about that. But let's focus on intel to cyber, or what I like to tell my G2 is intel for the network, right? And so, um, the NETCOM G2, I would tell you, I would put this G2 against any 2-star level G2 section directorate in the Army for what they do every day. Um, they are phenomenal. They are keeping an enterprise, up to date on the threat any given day, but not just kind of traditional intelligence, but taking that traditional intelligence and applying the so what from a network perspective. Uh, and what I find fascinating is most of these folks um, probably had no clue about intel to cyber or what intelligence meant to the network before they stepped into the G2 here at NetCom. But they are absolutely phenomenal. Their ability to um, take the threat and apply what it means to me as a commander and the decisions I need to make is just absolutely phenomenal. They do it day in and day out, and their ability to paint that picture and provide the so what allows me to make decisions on a day to day basis on behalf of really the Army when it comes to the security of the network. And so just phenomenal. But it doesn't stop with the G2 section here at NetCom. We have 8 brigades in the command. Each brigade has an S2 section, but outside of that, we have 6 regional cyber centers. So that's RCC, Korea, Pacific, Europe, SWA, CONUS, and the National Guard is now OPCON to me. And each one of those, minus the National Guard, and we're working on this right now, has what's called an ICE, an Intel Support Element. And that element in each one of those regional cyber centers is um, they're taking the stuff they see on the front lines every day, analyzing it, pushing it up to the team here, and the team here is doing further analysis and providing uh, data and recommendations. But also, the team here is feeding that Intel support element day to day, so that that Intel support element uh, knows what's going on in their theater. These elements are very new. They came out of all the gap work that happened a couple of years ago. So gap 15 allowed us to get some personnel savings and stand up these Intel support elements across the globe, and they're paying off that they're paying in spades, right? So what they do every day at the front lines for the regional cyber centers is unbelievable. You got a captain, NCO, IC, and they're just crushing it, right? They again, what they interestingly enough, most of them not trained on this, and they come through here. We do a training class here, but they're learning it on the fly. But their ability, the Intel community's ability to adapt to what it means to take intelligence and apply it to the network, to the cyberspace domain, has been absolutely phenomenal. Again, very nascent. If you'd like a job, we're hiring. We'll take any one of you and put you inside the formation, because everything we do is based on the threat, right? So day-to-day actions are threat informed, and so uh, just phenomenal what they're doing. Uh, Again, very nascent. We we are we work directly with our cyber and cyber command, and do draw some authorities there that allow us to get at some things. If you're ever curious about that, I saw Chief Hennessy on here. He can talk to you about the work he's been doing to allow us to do more in support of the Army, and honestly, Cyber Command any given day from a threat perspective. So hats off to Ed, as he's done a lot of work in that regard. But that's kind of NetCom, the Intel apparatus from the G2 through through the brigades down to the RCCs and the ICE, kind of how we're set up. Um, and again, I can't say enough for the work that's done internal to the Intel enterprise inside of NETCOM to keep me informed from a threat perspective, so that we can make decisions on behalf of the network and services we deliver each and every day. And so I'm a pause there to see if there's any questions on any of that. Um, or anything in general, and then steer the conversation from there. So I'll pause there.
Sir, there was one question in regards to the level of intelligence and cyber convergence as it pertains to the DODINT. One of the questions that were posed based on chapter input was, how does NETCOM strategize and coordinates global operations to maintain the Army dominance in cyberspace while safeguarding the freedom of action while thwarting adversary attempts to exploit the DODINT in alignment with NDO?
Yeah, wow. There's a lot to unpack there, right? So, one, we're not on an island. Our higher headquarters is our cyber, who has exquisite intelligence apparatus as well. And again, the way we get after this is the G2 is working, cross-cutting across the army. So RG2 is working up to our cyber command, but across the theaters through our Army Service Component commands any given day to gather intel through those G2 sections and S2 sections, uh, and so we stay abreast that way, and then just organizing and orchestrating things globally. The way we do that from a network perspective is from Fort Huachuca. So we have a brand new entity that we're standing up called the Global Cyber Center that will sit on top of the regional cyber centers and orchestrate kind of all happenings on throughout the globe. So the regional centers are, they're regionally aligned but globally integrated, right? So everything that a regional cyber center does on the network affects every other portion of the network, and so hence the reason we got to stay globally integrated. But we run operations from here, from the global cyber center. That's kind of our ops center, our talk. Um, and we do all work from here. The way the network has changed over the last, we'll say, 2 years, probably a little bit longer, really starting to morph in COVID, is a lot is cloud based. We still have on premises stuff, but a lot is cloud based, and so the Army 365 is a great example of that. But um, we are delivering those those services from CONUS globally every day. And so we orchestrate that through a series of battle rhythm events, updates, what we call uh, CTO, so communications tasking orders, the standard orders process, so op orders, fragos, warrant orders. And so we're orchestrating that across the globe. And then we rely on those regional cyber centers um, to watch their region, and then report up. And then the theater signal brigades inside that formation are responsible for delivering services either via the network enterprise centers, which we all know and love, or through signal battalions, which we have. So we do have expeditionary signal battalions enhanced, so ESBEs inside of our formation that deliver service to the edge for tactical formations. And we have strategic signal battalions that either help with NEX or run theaters. And so that entire team, to include the CPB, the Cyber Protection Brigade, which I have admin control of, General Barrett retains operational control of. Um, we stay synced through a series of battle rhythm events, and then through a series of orders processes that allow us to make changes, track outages, and the like. But no small feat any given day. But that's kind of how we orchestrate things across the globe, and the Intel apparatus feeds that beast every day, right? So there's, I said it up front. So we're in competition, crisis, and conflict every day. So the cyberspace domain does not rest, right? That whether it's a hacker in a basement looking to make some money, or it's a peer, near peer adversary doing things. It's always on, and so the intel apparatus is constantly grabbing that information, that intelligence, analyzing it, synthesizing it, and presenting the so what to everybody in that formation, so everybody understands what's going on. But that's probably the quickest answer to that question. A lot to unpack there.
No, absolutely, sir, and thank you very much for your response. I think we definitely have a better understanding as to the NETCOM mission within the building, the roles and responsibilities. Sir, there are additional questions that just dropped in a chat. I'm just going to read them off to you. The first question is from CW3 Will Cremona from the 14th Field Hospital, 44th Med Brigade out of Fort Stewart, Georgia. Will's question is, what are some of the priority projects NETCOM is working towards the Army CSA to fight lighter and faster as it applies to large cyber signal and cyber footprint currently required currently required to protect our users and cyber footprint.
Yeah, Chief Carmona, what a what a great question. What a great question. So we try not. I'll state up front. We try not to talk about the network from an enterprise tactical as much as possible, right? We talk about the unified network today, right? So the Army unified network, and so every day I challenge the NetCom team. Hey, how do we provide service down to the edge? Right, because I think every bit of service we can provide to the edge through good transport. So think SATCOM, line of sight, 5G, 3G, wireless, whatever it might be. If we can provide service to the edge, then that's less stuff that has to be at the edge. So we start to take complexity out of the edge of the battle space and bring it as far up as possible. So I challenge the team with that every day. And so some things we've done in that regard is, I think everybody's familiar with LEO, right? So low Earth orbit. We're all in that space right now, trying to figure out how to use those better to provide good transport. So low latency, high bandwidth, high availability. So we're working that. Some other things we've done on the, and I hate saying this, but on the enterprise side that we're trying to push to people is we're now using Azure Virtual Desktop. So we now have the availability through remote desktop on either government furnished piece of equipment or your personal device with a CAT card. Double click on remote desktop and get into your work environment no matter where you're at. Again, from government furnished equipment, personal device, Mac, Windows, it doesn't matter, right? It presents your desktop through a virtual setting, and it's the closest thing to zero trust we're doing right now, available today, and works everywhere in the world. Two locations really slow, right? So Southwest Asia and Korea, really slow. But that's just based on the current architecture. We're now taking a look at that architecture to figure out how we make those two regions better. But so Azure Virtual Desktop, AVD as we call it, huge leap forward, and a game changer, because again, take your MacBook Pro from your house, load remote desktop, travel with it versus the Windows machine the Army buys you, CAT card, YubiKey, whatever you decide to use, punch in, and you're going to see your desktop. So that's one thing. Big push on, and that's one portion of what I would call the remote capable workforce. So BYOD. So bring your own device is another piece that we're looking at. So Hypori is out there. It's a product that is out there. You can get a license today that puts the work environment from a virtual instance on your personal phone. So no longer need to carry two phones if you're carrying them now, or if you're not afforded the ability to get a DMUC, you can actually put your work on your personal device. And no, we can't see into your personal device. It's all virtual, very secure. So those two big efforts right now, from a kind of how do we get the services to the edge, and there's a ton of other things we're doing to secure all that, right? So comply to connect is a huge one. We're working that globally right now. And then I think the thing for, you know, somebody like at the edge, I think the thing that will sing the loudest is probably what we call Army Unified Directory Services. And what that is going to do for the first time in everybody on the screen's career, um, you will not you will not have to, when you move from Fort Eisenhower to Fort Huachuca, you will not have to get a new account, right? So the account you have in the Army will work worldwide seamlessly, and you'll be able to pick up the computer on your desk and move seamlessly across the globe and plug it anywhere you go, right? So there's huge benefits to that, right? So think about anybody on this net who ever deployed to Southwest Asia and somebody told you had to wipe your machine and re-image it, all that's gone, right? And so you can take the computer off your desk, go to Southwest Asia, plug it in, and log in with your CAT card. You see your desktop. There's no user agreement to sign. Um, so trying to smooth out not just the technology, but the governance and policy process too. But that is a work in progress right now. We are de- we are deploying it globally right now. Very limited machines in that environment because as we put more machines in, we're learning more stuff, and so more to follow. But that's a huge lift right now. And then we've changed the way we're doing endpoint security as well. We can now see just about any endpoint or flavor of endpoint on the network. We proved out last month we can now manage Android devices in the environment, right? So we can manage Apple devices in the environment. We are in the process of testing Apple devices, government furnished Apple devices on the Doden right now, so that we can go back out to the network enterprise centers across the globe, hand them a playbook. So if a customer shows up with Apple devices, we know how to add them to the network now. Where in the past we would have told you no because we don't know how to add them or manage them, and we can do that now. So those are some of the things we're doing right up front as we look to make this better, and we're a lot of success. But as it applies to kind of lighter, faster, we are working with PEOC3T. Again, how do we extend services from here, the top all the way to the tactical edge, so that less has to be carried forward. LEO, right? So low Earth orbit is a big piece of lighter, faster, um, and it's all about pulling complexity out of the battalions and brigades and pulling it up to division and corps, so that the people at the edge, truly at the tip of the spear, can fight versus worry about setting up a network. And so doing a lot of that today, working with Seventh ID out at JBLM right now to figure out if there's a way to pull the enterprise and the tactical network truly together into this unified network. And so, but a lot of work going on there. But great question, great question.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your response. Sir, there's another question from your ace chief, actually, Major Brian Linsmeyer, NETCOM G2. And his question is, what are some examples in the cyberspace domain where intelligence assisted in your decision making or risk acceptance?
Yeah, yeah, he's not allowed to ask questions. So so I think the biggest example, and Brian, feel free if I don't hit the mark to tell me I don't hit the mark. I think the biggest one of late is, so one of the things we're rolling out as an initiative is commercial solutions for classified, right? So the ability to take a laptop, nothing's on the laptop, it's all virtual. You pull in a virtual image, and you have SIPR in your office. You have SIPR on the move, you have SIPR while you're traveling. Uh, that is huge right now. We have two nodes, one at Eisenhower, one at Liberty. And so Brian actually and the team came in and walked me through uh, a lot of intelligent threat analysis based on intelligence they were seeing, that allowed me to really tell the team to kind of pause where we were at, and then uh, actually from a decision making perspective, I pulled all all authorities to operate risk involved in that capability rather than put that risk down on multiple network authorizing officials around the globe. I pulled all that risk up to me, and then between myself and General Barrett, we walked through that risk calculus. But that's probably the most recent decision. Brian, is that a good example of kind of?
That's a great example, sir. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing on a recurring daily basis is affecting decisions at the regional cyber centers, those directors. We've had some turnovers, some new arrivals in the G2, sir. That's why I asked the question. Appreciate your input, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, to truly answer some of that, we'd have to go to a skiff probably, but yeah, it's every day. I mean, they tell me something which allows me to at least inform people down below or tell people, hey, I got this one. I'm going to make the risk, the risk acceptance here. But yeah, no, I appreciate the question, Brian.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your response. There's another question from CW2 Joshua Mendez from the 21st TSB or 21st Signal Brigade out of Fort Detrick, Maryland. Um, Josh's question is, in what manner do you perceive SATCOM as a managed service?
That's a great question, and it's a again, people who work in my formation shouldn't be allowed to ask questions. I joke. So great question. Army specifically inside, G6, our cyber, PEOC3T about SATCOM as a service, a robust discussion about SATCOM as a service. Because here's what's happening today: will go out and get it themselves, and they're using precious op tempo dollars, operational dollars to get these things, and we, I think, as an Army, need to figure out how we deliver that as a service. That's UBank's opinion, right? Um, but if we don't at least have the discussion, I'm not. We're not gonna at least start to stay equal or at least get ahead of this. I mean, a great example is, young young platoon leaders and stuff are purchasing their own Leo, right? Um, they're using it to connect, government furnished equipment to for Nipper, right? So there are a VPN and in like you would do, TDY or at your house, with your government laptop using a remote access VPN. The bandwidth is really good. It's really inexpensive, and so I think as an Army we've got to figure out what SATCOM as a service looks like, so that we're providing really good service to the soldiers in the Army. I don't know if that scratched the itch. Not.
Chief Mendez, do you have anything else to add?
No, that kind of does, sir. And just as we kind of work with some of the industry partners, we're realizing they all see it very completely different. Some see it as a complete turnkey solution where they provide terminals and nodes and everything, and some see it that they have to work with other industry partners to make it effective for the customer, but also for them. Because if I need a terminal for example 6 months and then I no longer use it, now that business partner has to shelf it and hopefully somebody else uses it as well. So I think as an Army, we really need to establish what we want and how to use it. And then maybe that'll make it easier for vendors to kind of give us a solution.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Josh. And so that's not like other as a services things we're looking at as an Army, right? So software as a service is another big one. I can't tell you the number of companies that talk to me and they're like, so what's that mean to you? Are we doing it all for you? Are we only doing a portion for you? And I think so. We're still wrestling with what does as a service truly mean? Is it we're going to let a vendor truly do everything for us, or are we going to they're going to do some and we're going to do some of the other stuff? And I would tell you right now, we kind of live in this world where they do a portion and then we do a portion, and I think that's across the as a service kind of portfolio. But no, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Sir, there's another question in the chat for you. I'm just going to read it off. This is coming from Captain Selman Tamel, and my apologies if I butchered your name, from the SEMA OIC for 22 SBCT out of JBL in Washington. He would like for you to share your thoughts on AI tools, and more specifically, he also stated that Microsoft has enabled AI into their 365 services, but this is not available on Army networks. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, you still there, Fred? Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, great question. So it's available in 365. We just haven't turned it all on yet, right? So we are walking ourselves through this right now. And interestingly enough, had a great discussion with General Barrett, General Morrison, and Mr. Garciga, the CIO, about, hey, does the Army have an AI policy? Should we have an AI policy? And so we're now walking ourselves through that. Now, from a what can it enable inside the tenant perspective, the team here is now um, we're walking through what can AI or even machine learning (ML) do for us inside the tenant. What can be automated? Uh, what are the tasks it can do for us? What's the data it can provide? And so we're starting to look at that now. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is all over Microsoft's um, commercial tenants. It is available to us. We just haven't flipped a switch because we're trying to get our arms around what it means to us. And that's not a very fulfilling answer, and I know that, but it's kind of where we're at today. Over.
Good copy, sir, and thank you for your response. I also think that it also goes back to the greater discussion as to what is the AI policy for the Army, and then what does the data governance look like beyond both intel or even cyber, just because you have so many different equities that are involved within that particular environment. I think to your point, sir, like, as we move forward and as we help and shape and inform the process, like, it'll help us become more efficient moving forward as we try to deliver Army 2030. And sir, I don't see any additional questions out of the chat, but there were some pre-pro questions from before. Uh, Another question, and this kind of goes back to the integration of intelligence, and the question from the chapter is, how does NITCOM integrate intelligence gathering and analysis to anticipate and proactively counter potential cyber threats, preserving the Army's operational advantages in cyberspace, and supporting MDO effectively at all echelons of formations? Over.
Yeah. So yeah, we're yeah, that and again, great question, a lot to unpack there. So I would tell you, I think between Major Lensmeyer and Chief Hennessy and crew, we are much better than we were, but continuing to learn on what it means to kind of get proactive with some of this stuff. Um, we tend to be in the network world, good, bad, or indifferent. We tend to be reactive, but again, not getting into anything classified. The team has done a really good job of mapping out adversaries and capabilities so that the proactive approach. And so I think we're getting better and better. The the ICE inside the RCCs, what RCCs do from kind of a cybersecurity service provider role, allow for tipping and queuing, and so I think we are absolutely getting better. And again, that one's a hard one to tackle on an unclassed net. But yeah, and everything we do is really about enabling decision dominance, right? So it is all about multi-domain operations. Uh, Nothing we do any given day about delivering services, anything but how are we enabling warfighters to make decisions at the speed of need, right? And so that's kind of been the approach over the last couple years. But yeah, that's a great question again. And I'm signing up, Major Lensmeyer and Chief Hennessy and crew, but I would encourage you to reach out to them, get in a classified space if you're here at Huachuca or even in a VTC and have that conversation, because they can walk you through some things they're doing to kind of get after some of this stuff. Over.
Yes, sir. It's Major Lensmeyer. And like General Eubanks said, if you're on Fort Huachuca, we'll bring you over to the skiff here as long as you have a badge. And if not, we'll get you on Teams or some other medium to inform you of at a higher level what NETCOM G2 is doing on a daily basis to answer PIRs in the cyberspace domain.
Thanks, Brian. Hey, Fred, I see this one from Captain Warren. So here's what I would tell you about partners, right? So MPE, mission partner environment, is that one is a tough one right now, right? So we are we don't typically deliver it. We will overwatch it for you. Typically, it gets delivered by combatant commands. Some of your Army Service Component commands, USER, AF, and USER PAC are now looking at this, and so there are a couple niche ones that we are actually delivering. Our role now has been provide the cybersecurity service provider overwatch and functions. It's a big discussion inside the Army right now about who's going to do MPE. So that's one portion, one kind of answer to your question. The other answer is I would tell you we are getting better at figuring out how to interact with our part. Great example is some of the things we've done in Europe in support of Ukraine. And again, can't talk too much on this net, but I would tell you we are doing a lot of work, and it's enabling that. And so we are slowly but surely starting to figure that out on behalf of our partners, because it's absolutely needed. So hopefully.
Good copy, sir, and thank you for your response. Sir, can you still hear me? There was some quality of service issues just now.
Yeah, I got you now, Fred. I may turn off my camera so we're not eating up bandwidth with a bunch of pictures.
Absolutely, sir. Um, Sir, just to kind of piggyback off of Captain Warren's question, Fred Akron Foundation, Intel seated. So we talked about networking, we talked about interoperability. What are some of the challenges with leveraging the zero trust environment that the Army is slowly starting to move to, as it pertains to interoperability and integration between both legacy command and control information systems, as well as emerging networks such as secret but unclassified secured? Over.
Yeah, so I mean, we're all learning right now. So legacy, I mean, that's going to be that'll probably be the bigger task, right? Is trying to figure out either how we divest of legacy and move to new, or you got to convert. I think the better way to approach that is applications are a great example, right? So we got a lot of applications that will not convert, and so what we're doing is working with everybody to tell them, hey, it's not going to move to the cloud, and so and it can't be we can't enable it from a zero trust perspective. So customers understand they've got to figure out something new. So that's the first thing. The um, the the sensitive but unclassified network, I think, as you said, to build on the last one, I think what that allows us to do is allows us to interact with partners easier. And so what we're doing is, um, again, we're kind of on the outside of some of this work, trying to help from a here's how we do it inside the enterprise, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? So here's how we're securing endpoints, managing endpoints. Here's how we would do XYZ. And so we are in all those discussions, just trying to enable that more complexity inside that environment. Every day for us is trying to figure out how to pull as much complexity out of the battalion brigade so that they can fight um, light and fast versus having to worry about a bunch of servers and stuff like that. So, but it is an ongoing discussion today. A lot of OPTs going on. So yeah, I mean it's a wicked hard problem.
Absolutely, sir, and thank you for your response. There's also an additional question along your line, sir, and the question is, what are ways that NetCom envisions collaborating with intelligence agencies, Mission Command, as well as our enabling partners to optimize information services, communication networks, for seamless and secured intelligence and operational information sharing across the DODAN, to support commanders' decision-making process in a very dynamic operational environment.
Yeah, so I think the key there is data, right? I mean, here in NetCom, what we're trying to make sure is the data is available. There's integrity there, and we can move it, right? We can either get you to it or get it to you. And so every day for us is, hey, where's the data at? Is it good data or bad data? And oh, by the way, can the decision maker get to that data? And so, and that's sort of strategic inside of the Army, or that the environments between the DISA 10 and this 2 years ago was, I think anybody on here would tell you, man, it was horrible. We couldn't sync calendars and stuff like that. And so we're now in a much better place, but that is all about the data. And so, and there's a ton of it, right? And so, it's really about, I think we've got to figure out how we tag our data, how we label our data, so that, everybody knows what it is and who it's for, and then and make sure it's secure, hasn't been tampered with, and then it's and then making sure people can get to it, or we can. The big piece is data, and again, ton of it, right? I mean, if I told you how much data the Army had just from a user data perspective, you'd be flabbergasted. It's a ton. It is a ton. And so now we're we're intimately involved in that, and very 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 uh, yeah, it's important to us because a lot of that data now resides in the 365 tenant, and so every day for us is like, okay, we got to make sure it's good, it's secure, and people can use it. So, but it's all about the data. Over.
Absolutely. And thank you, sir. I appreciate your response. Sir, I definitely want to be respectful of your time. We have probably enough time to take two more questions. I will open up the forum to anybody that would like to ask a question.
All right, Fred. Looks like people are going to give me a pass. What we got?
Nope. Nope. You got Chief Newsom just dropped one more question.
Okay, I see it. I see it. All right. So, um, look, so that's not unlike a lot of questions I get when it comes to kind of what I'll call the communications workforce, right? So, my workforce, kind of they look at technology and they go, okay, I'm a network engineer, but I don't know software defined networking. So what I challenge them with is, hey, so you probably should learn software defined networking because that's where we're going, right? And so AI is the same way. Um, what I hope is that AI doesn't replace people, right? People is our business. People, uh, there's there's things that people will do that AI uh, truly can't do, right? And that is uh, apply that human factor. And so it's interesting. I was reading an article yesterday. Primer AI put out a little 5 pager, talked about AI, and so and the fact that in AI, if a lot of these tools are tuned to the internet, so you get what's called hallucinations, right? So some of the stuff you get when you ask it a question won't be quite factual, right? And so I think the human still plays a part. And so I think at AI and as we move forward in the world, but that's probably the best answer I can give you. I hope that it I don't think the role changes. I think all of us have to figure out how to use AI and ML in our specific roles. But yeah, and then if you're okay, Fred, I'll give you a couple final comments.
Thank you for your response, sir. And sir, I'll turn it over to you for your final comments before we close out the session for today.
Okay, so one piece of literature I'm a understand networking. One piece of literature tutorial help a begin. So here's what I would tell you. What I tell folks all the time is, uh, get, you don't have to be, the expert, but I would tell you understand cloud, understand software defined networking, uh, big data, AI, ML, and then finally, you know, you, you know, the I think if you understand those things, right, and zero trust, right, understanding 7 pillars, 45 tenants, 100 and some odd tasks inside those tenants, right? If you understand that, you will be in a better place. You will better understand kind of where we're. There's not one piece of literature I could turn you to get differing opinions on things. But that's what I would say to that last question. And then what I'll say, signal guy, I challenge signal people all the time. I'm speaking, and like what I would challenge you to do is be passionate every day, right? So as enable more fighters every day. And what I would tell you as enablers is we get paid to solve problems every day. And so any day you learn and any day you come to work and solve a problem is a good day. So I just tell you, be passionate about what you do. And thanks for what you do. Because not everybody decides to join the military service or the army. And so thank you for what you do, but remain passionate, come to work and solve problems every day. And again, thanks for the time today. It's been great. I appreciate it, Fred.
Thank you, sir. And again, on behalf of General Hale and General Harding, thank you very much for your very insightful discussion and education as to your perspective of NETCOM, as well as your teammates out there just across the way on post. We truly appreciate your time, and we're truly thankful for you to carve out an hour out of your extremely busy schedule just to talk to the teammates here within the forum, as well as across the enterprise. Um, Again, on behalf of Huachuca Rocks, it has been a distinct pleasure and honor to host you today on today's forum. Uh, and again, thank you for your time, sir. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll follow up with you sometime here shortly. Ladies and gentlemen on the net, this concludes the Huachuca
Yeah,
Rocks.
absolutely. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too, sir. This concludes the LPD for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining in for today's session. Before you disconnect, I would be remiss if I did not market the finest Huachuca Rocks chapter within the Rock Incorporated Enterprise. So if you are not a member of the Rocks, and again, hopefully you have loved and enjoyed some of the insights that were garnered from today's session. If you are interested in joining the Rocks, Chief Newsom will drop the directions or the directions in order to sign up for either our chapter as well as some of the other chapters that are available throughout the Army. So again, as a part of our Huachuca Rocks, as I kind of introduced at the beginning of the LPD, we are all about mentorship. We're all about networking. We're all about professional and personal development. We're dedicated to our craft, and you know these type of LPDs, we hold them at least once a month. Next month we're actually going to be hosting General Appelhans, the USACO commander, on a leadership LPD as well. For the Huachuca's Rock chapter in particular, we hold a monthly chapter meeting, roughly about the second Wednesday of every month. If you want to kind of dial in just to see what are some of the activities or some of the business that we conduct during those chapter meetings, you're more than welcome to join. But I would highly encourage that if you would like to become a part of Huachuca Rocks, please consider joining either our chapter as well as some of the various chapters throughout the Army. Again, thank you for your time. This is Fred Joyce, your chapter president, and I'll stay on the net for another 2 minutes to answer any additional questions.